He never once said, "I love you" to me. Not even once in 24 years. That sentence has echoed in my mind more times than I can count. And every time it did, it hardened something inside me. I used to believe that love should be loud, expressed in words, gestures, and clear signs. But my father, he was a fortress, solid, silent, and impossible to climb. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 24 years old and live in Boston now. I work as a software engineer, clean apartment, strong coffee, same hoodie 3 days in a row, you get the picture. I built my life in a way that didn't leave much room for family. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to care. Not after growing up in a house where love felt like a rumor no one confirmed. My mother passed away when I was 9. It was cancer, quick and cruel. 1 month she was tucking me into bed, humming James Taylor under her breath, and the next, gone. My father, David Carter, was a former Marine. Tall, broad-shouldered, emotionally impenetrable. After she died, he shut the world out, and me with it. He never remarried, never brought anyone home. He filled his time fixing old radios in the garage, chopping wood, and staring out the window with a blank expression. And me? I just drifted through school, through teenage rebellion, through every missed birthday hug. I tried a few times to break the ice. Asked him if he wanted to go to a Red Sox game once. He just said, "I'm busy," even though I knew he wasn't. We had our routines. Silent dinners, quiet car rides, nods instead of conversations. By the time I graduated high school, we were more like roommates than family. I left for MIT and never really looked back. 5 years passed. We didn't speak often, maybe a call on Christmas, a half-hearted happy birthday text in June. But then, a week ago, I got a call from my father's neighbor, Mrs. Griffith. She's known our family for decades. "Ethan," she said gently, "your father's sick, real sick. You should come." I didn't respond right away. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, holding the phone like it weighed 100 pounds. Part of me felt angry. Where was this concern when I was a kid, crying myself to sleep? But another part of me, it just felt hollow, like there was a door opening somewhere inside me, and I was too afraid to walk through. I didn't make a decision that day, or the day after, but on the third morning, I found myself packing a bag, without even fully understanding why. I called out of work, fed my cat, locked up my apartment, and got on a Greyhound bus bound for Maine. The house hadn't changed. That was my first thought when the cab pulled up to the faded blue bungalow on Willow Street. Same sagging porch swing, same cracked walkway, same ancient mailbox with peeling paint. It was like stepping into a memory that hadn't aged. I stepped inside, and the smell hit me. Wood polish, old newspapers, and something faintly like engine oil. It was weirdly comforting. Then I saw him. He was sitting in his recliner, a thick wool blanket over his legs. Thinner than I remembered. Paler too. But his eyes, they still held that steel-hard look I grew up fearing. "Hey," I said. He looked up. "You came." Not a hug, not a smile, just those 2 words. I guess for him that was something. I nodded, unsure what else to say. I sat down across from him, and for a while we just listened to the old grandfather clock ticking in the corner. The first few days were awkward, doesn't even begin to cover it. We moved around each other like strangers in an elevator. I offered to cook, he grunted. I tried to talk about work, he nodded. I asked him about his treatment, he changed the subject. Still, I noticed things. He always made sure there was fresh coffee when I woke up. He folded my laundry when I forgot it in the dryer. He kept the thermostat at just the right temperature. Small, quiet acts, but never any words. Then one night a storm rolled in. Heavy winds, thunder, rain pelting the windows. The power flickered once, then went out completely. The house was swallowed in darkness. I fumbled for a flashlight, but he already had one lit. "Come sit," he said, patting the ottoman near him. I hesitated, then did. The storm roared outside, but inside the house, it was still. We sat there, the flashlight casting shadows across the walls. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then, out of nowhere, he said, Have you ever been up to the attic? I blinked. No, why? There's a box up there. Wooden. Got your name on it. I stared at him. What's in it? He looked away. Things I never got around to giving you. Something about the way he said it made the air feel heavy. My hands went cold. Like what? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. Just turned his face back toward the window, watching the lightning flash behind the trees. The next morning, when the sun broke through the clouds and the power came back on, I climbed the narrow ladder to the attic. And that's when everything began to change. The attic smelled like thyme, dust, dry wood, and something faintly like cedar. It was dim, only a shaft of morning light spilling through a narrow window gave me enough to see. I pulled the chain on the single bulb overhead, and a soft yellow glow filled the space. I hadn't been up there since I was a kid. Back then, it felt haunted. Now, it just felt forgotten. I spotted the box right away. It sat in the corner beneath a folded American flag and some old family photo albums. It was wooden, with a brass latch and the word Ethan carved into the top in my father's heavy, blocky handwriting. My chest tightened as I knelt down and opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, each one sealed, dated, and written in his unmistakable print. The earliest one was from 2008, just 2 months after Mom passed away. I picked it up carefully and opened it. October 14th, 2008. Ethan, you asked me last night why Mom had to go. I had no answer. I still don't. I watched you cry yourself to sleep and couldn't bring myself to hold you. I don't know how to fix this. I wish I did. Today you ate dinner in silence. You're only 9, but I see the storm in you. I'm sorry, I don't know how to calm it. I love you, Dad. I sat there on the attic floor for hours, reading letter after letter. There was one from the day I started high school, another when I got my driver's license, one where he said he followed me from a distance the day I left for college, watching me board the bus with tears in his eyes but never stepping forward. He wrote about how proud he was, how much he missed me, how he regretted every missed opportunity to just say something, anything. Every letter was a quiet confession, written in silence, then sealed and hidden away like memories he couldn't bear to let go of. I had spent my whole life believing my father didn't love me, but I was wrong. He had loved me fiercely, just in the only way he knew how, in ink, in privacy, in stillness. When I finally came back down, my eyes were red and swollen. He was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, staring out at the backyard like he always did. I read them, I said softly. He didn't turn to look at me, just nodded once. I figured you would. I walked over and placed one of the letters on the table. It was the one from the day I left for MIT. Why didn't you ever give me these? He took a long breath before answering. Because every time I thought about it, I got scared, thought maybe it was too late, or maybe it wouldn't matter to you. It would have mattered, I said. It matters now. He finally turned to look at me, and for the first time in my life, his eyes were wet. Not crying, just holding back the weight of years. I didn't know how to be a good father without your mom, he said quietly. She was the heart. I was just the hands. I moved toward him. You were more than that, Dad. You were always more than that. And then, without needing a reason or a cue, I hugged him. It wasn't a dramatic movie moment. No music swelled. The world didn't stop spinning. But something inside both of us shifted. Years of silence began to crack, and we held on for a long time. The weeks that followed were filled with small miracles. We didn't become a perfect father and son duo overnight. But we talked. We laughed, sometimes. I showed him photos of my apartment, told him about a girl I'd been seeing. He told me about his time in the Marines, the time he almost crashed Mom's old Chevy, how he used to watch me sleep when I had nightmares as a kid. One night, I handed him a blank sheet of paper. What's this for? He asked. I smiled. Your turn. But this time, don't keep it in a box. He chuckled, raspy and dry. You always were the smart one. From that day forward, we started exchanging letters, just a few lines every morning, left on the kitchen table. Silly jokes, bits of advice, old memories. It became our quiet way of making up for lost time. Then, one morning, I found a letter that was different. It was in a white envelope, and across the front it simply said, "For Ethan, when I'm gone." I didn't read it right away. Couldn't. A few days later, I sat beside him in the hospital bed. He was weaker than ever. The machines beeped softly. He opened his eyes, looked at me, and whispered, "Don't forget, son, you were always my greatest pride." Those were his last words. The funeral was small. Just a few neighbors, some old Marine buddies, and me. I read one of his letters during the service, and I think for the first time, people really saw the man I had just come to understand. Back in Boston, I finally opened the last letter. "Ethan, if you're reading this, then my time here is done. I want you to know I was never good at saying the right things. I held on to too much, but never once did I stop loving you. I saw the man you've become, and I was in awe. If your mother were here, she'd tell me she always knew. Live your life loud, son. Love loudly. Say the words I never could. And when you become a father, don't write letters. Speak them. Every day. With all the love I never said, Dad." I framed that letter and hung it in my living room. And now, every night before bed, I write one of my own. But not to be hidden in a box. To be read. To be heard. Someday when I have a child, they'll know. Not just from my actions, but from my words. Because love, real love, isn't meant to be buried in silence. It's meant to be spoken, lived, and passed on.